It's just $200, I told myself. By sunrise, I was down $4,800 and couldn't pay rent. My name is Marcus. I'm a line cook who works 2 jobs and sends money to my mom's care home. 3 days ago, I had a plan for everything: rent, bills, even her medicine. Today I'm staring at maxed out credit cards and empty pockets. The IT started with a broken car. A $2,300 repair I couldn't afford. I'd studied the math, knew the odds. I wasn't some desperate gambler. I was solving a problem. The casino felt like an equation I could win. $200 was careful, smart, even, but the cards didn't care about my strategy. The dealer's eyes got softer as my stack got smaller. I kept telling myself I was one good hand away from fixing everything. The sun came up while I was still chasing that first wind. Here's what no one tells you. It doesn't feel like falling until you hit the ground, when you're sure you can beat the system with discipline and math. What breaks first, the system or you? The grease burns on my forearms were still pink when my phone buzzed. I was scraping the grill clean at Mel's Diner, trying to get the char off before my shift ended. The lunch rush had been brutal. 3 orders of chicken fried steak, 2 fish platters, and a steady stream of burgers that kept the fryer screaming for 4 hours straight. The text was from Sunrise Manor. Mom's place, payment overdue. $900 balance must be cleared by Thursday, or we'll need to discuss alternative arrangements. I stared at the screen until the words blurred. Thursday was 2 days away. My checking account had $340 in it. The math was simple and ugly. Marcus, you clocking out or what? Danny called from the pass. He was covering the dinner shift, already tying his apron. Yeah, sorry. I peeled off my hairnet and grabbed my jacket from the hook. The Honda was waiting in the parking lot, making that grinding noise it had been making for a week. I'd been ignoring it, hoping it would fix itself. Cars don't work that way, but hope is cheaper than mechanics. The engine turned over on the 3rd try. That grinding sound was definitely getting worse. I had 20 minutes to get across town to the Marriott. Wednesday nights, I worked catering events, corporate parties, wedding receptions, anything that paid cash tips. It was good money when the crowd was generous. Tonight was some kind of business dinner. Executives in suits, open bar, probably. Decent tips if I smiled enough. The Honda lurched at a red light. I pumped the gas pedal and it smoothed out, but barely. $900 for mom. Rent was due in 12 days, another $1,800. My credit cards were already close to maxed from last month's emergency room visit when mom fell and needed stitches. The light turned green. I pressed the gas and felt the transmission slip before it caught the Marriott loading dock. I helped unload warming trays and folding tables. The catering manager, Beth, handed me the event details on a clipboard. Corporate retreat for some tech company. Cocktail hour, dinner service, open bar until midnight. It's at the conference center, she said, pointing to the address. Riverside Casino, Building C. I'd driven past Riverside plenty of times, but never been inside. Never had a reason to. Gambling seemed like throwing money away, and I'd never had money to throw. The conference center was connected to the main casino by a long hallway lined with mirrors and carpet that probably cost more than I made in a month. Setting up the buffet tables, I could see through glass doors into the gaming floor. Rows of slot machines blinked and chirped. Blackjack tables sat under bright lights like operating rooms. The executives started arriving at 6. Loud voices, firm handshakes, expensive watches. They drank like they weren't paying for it, which they weren't. I circulated with appetizer trays, bacon-wrapped scallops, stuffed mushrooms, little quiches that cost more per bite than my lunch. Tips were good. Really good. A guy in a gray suit handed me a 20 for bringing him another scotch. A woman with perfect teeth gave me another 20 just for clearing her empty plate. By 9 o'clock, I had $140 in my jacket pocket. Best night in weeks. After cleanup, I helped load equipment back into the van. Walking through that mirrored hallway again, I slowed down near the glass doors. The casino floor was still busy, not packed, but steady action. I watched a blackjack table for a minute. The dealer was a middle-aged woman with graying hair, very professional. She dealt cards with smooth, practiced motions. The players were making obvious mistakes, hitting when they should have stayed, staying when they should have hit. I'd read enough about basic strategy online during slow shifts at the diner to know they were giving the house unnecessary advantages. That IT looked almost mathematical. Clean. Nothing like the chaotic kitchen I'd just left. My phone buzzed with another text as I walked to the parking lot. The parking lot was half empty by 10:30. I sat in my car, engine running rough, reading the text from Mom. "Hope you're doing well, honey. The nurses here are so sweet. Did you get my voicemail about the new medication policy? I hadn't checked my voicemails in 3 days. Too much noise in my head already. I tried calling her back, but it went to the facility's main line. Visiting hours were over. I'd have to call tomorrow between shifts, try to catch her during the 15 minutes when she wasn't napping or at physical therapy." The Honda made a grinding noise when I put it in reverse. Not the engine, something deeper. Transmission, probably. I'd been dreading that possibility for months. Home. I spread my bills across the kitchen table like a card game I couldn't win. Electric, $89 past due. Phone, $65. Credit card minimums, $240. Mom's care, $900. Rent, $1,800 in 12 days. Total, $30.94. Income, $340 in checking, plus tonight's $140 in tips, plus whatever I could make at the diner over the next 2 weeks. Maybe $1,200 if I was lucky. I opened my laptop and found the basic strategy charts I'd bookmarked months ago. I'd started reading about blackjack during breaks at work, not because I wanted to gamble, but because the math was interesting. Pure probability. If you played perfectly, the house edge was only about 0.5%. That was better odds than most investments. Better than lottery tickets. Better than hoping for overtime at the diner. $200. That's what I had. In 20s from tonight's tips. If I could turn that into 600, I'd have enough to cover Mom's payment and buy myself breathing room. The strategy charts were simple enough. Hit on 16 against a dealer's 10. Stay on 17 or higher. Split aces and eights. Double down on 11. I practiced with an online simulator until midnight. Won some, lost some, but stayed pretty close to even. That was the point. Basic strategy didn't beat the house, but it came close. Close enough that luck could tip the balance. My phone alarm was set for 5:30 a.m. Opening shift at the diner started at 6, but sleep didn't come easy. I kept thinking about that blackjack table through the glass doors. The woman dealer with steady hands. The way she flipped each card with exactly the same motion. It felt like work. Professional. Predictable. Maybe that's what I needed. Something. Predictable. The Honda wouldn't start. I turned the key and got nothing but clicking sounds and dashboard lights. The engine didn't even try to turn over. I sat in the diner parking lot at 5:45 a.m., already 15 minutes late, watching other employees walk past my car into the building. I called AAA from my cell phone. 40-minute wait for a jump start. Might not be the battery, the dispatcher said. Could be your starter. Could be your alternator. Could be a lot of things, all expensive. Mike, the manager, wasn't happy when I finally got inside. "This is the 3rd time this month, Marcus. Car trouble. AAA's coming. Car trouble is your problem, not mine. I need reliable people on the line." I tied my apron and got to work. Breakfast rush was already backing up, 6 ticket orders hanging on the rail, eggs overcooking on the grill, hash browns burning black. Mike jumped on the line beside me, flipping pancakes and shooting me looks. The AAA guy showed up around 8. Nice enough, but he shook his head as soon as he popped the hood. "Your battery's fine. Starter's seized up. Probably need a new one." "How much?" "300, maybe 400 with labor. But honestly, you might have bigger problems." "How's your transmission been?" My stomach dropped. "Why?" "Fluid's pretty dark. Smells burnt." "When's the last time you had it serviced?" "Never. I'd never had it serviced because I couldn't afford to service it." "Might want to have someone look at that too. Transmission work can get pricey." He got the Honda started, but it sounded wrong. Rougher than before. The grinding noise was definitely worse. Back at work, I looked up transmission shops on my phone during my break. The closest one was Discount Transmission on MLK Boulevard. They opened at 10. I called and described the symptoms to someone named Jerry. "Bring it in," he said. "We'll take a look." No charge for the estimate. The rest of my shift dragged. Orders kept coming, but my mind was somewhere else. Calculating. 300 for the starter. Maybe 1,000 for transmission work. Maybe more. I had $480 in my checking account after depositing last night's tips. My next paycheck wasn't until Friday, $340 after taxes. Not even close to enough. At 2 o'clock, I drove the Honda to Discount Transmission. Jerry was exactly what you'd expect. Coveralls, oil-stained hands, 20 years of auto repair written in the lines around his eyes. He listened to the engine, took it for a test drive around the block, then put it on the lift. "Come here," he said, pointing up at the transmission pan. "See that?" Black fluid dripped steadily onto the concrete floor. Thick, burnt-smelling drops that meant money I didn't have. "Your transmission's shot. Internal seals are gone, probably the pump too. You need a complete rebuild." "How much?" $2,300. Maybe 25 if we find more problems inside. I stood there watching my transmission bleed onto the floor. $2,300. More than my monthly income. How long can I drive it like this? Week, maybe 2 if you're lucky. But it's going to fail completely. Probably leave you stranded. Without the Honda, I couldn't get to work. Couldn't get to catering jobs. The bus didn't run to half the places I needed to go, and Uber would cost more than I made. Jerry must have seen something in my face. "I can hold it until Friday if you need time to get financing." But after that, I got to free up the bay. Financing. Right. With my credit score and maxed cards, the only place that would finance me was one of those payday loan places that charged 30% interest that I drove home with the Honda making dying whale sounds every time I shifted gears. In my apartment, I pulled up the casino website on my laptop. Riverside Casino. Table games, slots, poker room, basic strategy for blackjack. House edge, 0.5% with perfect play. I had $200 in cash from last night. If I could turn it into 1,000, I'd have enough to fix the car and keep working. Maybe enough to buy myself a month of breathing room. It wasn't gambling. It was a calculated risk. Mathematics. The casino was 20 minutes away. They were open 24 hours. I counted out the money on my kitchen table. $10, $20 bills. Fresh and crisp from the executives' wallets. Just this once. Just enough to solve the immediate problem. My phone rang. Mom's number. "Hi, honey. Did you get my message about the medication policy?" "Not yet." "What's going on?" "They're changing how they handle the prescription costs. It might be a little more expensive next month." "A little more expensive." Everything was always a little more expensive. "Don't worry about it, Mom. I'll handle it. You work so hard. I worry about you." "I'm fine." "Really?" After we hung up, I sat staring at the $20 bills. $200. The house edge was only 0.5% with perfect play. I'd studied the charts. I knew the math. How hard could it be? Discount Transmission looked like every other auto shop in the city. Oil stains on concrete, fluorescent lights buzzing overhead, the smell of metal and burnt fluid hanging in the air. I sat in the waiting room surrounded by old magazines and a coffee pot that had seen better years. Jerry called me over to the service bay. My Honda sat on the lift like a patient on an operating table. "Take a look at this." He pointed to a pan, full of black liquid. "Your transmission fluid should be red. This looks like motor oil." I stared at the evidence of my car's death. The fluid was thick and dark, with metal shavings floating on top like tiny grave markers. "See these pieces?" Jerry held up what looked like small metal chips. "Your transmission's eating itself from the inside. Internal seals are shot. Pumps failing. Gears are grinding against each other. Can you patch it up? Give me another month or 2. He shook his head. "This needs a complete rebuild. New seals, new pump, new torque converter. $2,300 minimum." $2,300. I did the math in my head. Even if I worked every available shift at both jobs, even if I got lucky with tips, I couldn't come close to that number. How long do I have? Maybe a week. 2 if you drive easy and pray a lot. But when it goes, it'll go completely. You'll be stuck wherever it happens. Without the Honda, I was dead in the water. The bus didn't run to the industrial part of town where most catering jobs were. Uber to work every day would cost more than I made. "I can hold the car until Friday if you want to think about it," Jerry said. "But I need the bay after that." I drove home with the transmission, making sounds like a dying animal. Every red light was a gamble. Would it catch when the light turned green, or would I be stuck blocking traffic? At home, I spread everything out on my kitchen table. Bills, paychecks, credit card statements. The math was brutal but simple. Monthly income, $2,200 on a good month. Monthly expenses, $2,800 minimum. I'd been living on borrowed time and borrowed money for months. The transmission was just the thing that finally broke the system. I opened my laptop and pulled up those blackjack strategy charts again. With perfect basic strategy, the house edge was 0.5%. That meant for every $100 played, I'd lose 50 cents on average, but average didn't account for luck. Average didn't account for streaks. And I only needed one good streak point too. $100. Turn it into 1,000. Fix the car. Buy myself time to figure out the rest. My phone buzzed. Text from mom. The nurse said my blood sugar was high again. Don't worry. They're adjusting my medication. Don't worry. Right. I counted out the $20 bills one more time. The casino was open all night. My apartment felt smaller with all the bills spread across the kitchen table. I'd been staring at the numbers for an hour, trying to find a solution that didn't exist. Rent, $1,800 due in 11 days. Mom's care, $900 due tomorrow. Transmission, $2,300 if I wanted to keep working. Credit available for $100 across two nearly maxed cards that I called Mike at the diner to ask about an advance on my next paycheck. Company policy, he said. No advances until you've been here a full year. You're still 3 months short. I called the catering company. Same story. The Honda sat outside my window making ticking sounds as it cooled down. Every mile I drove now felt like Russian roulette. Would it make it to work tomorrow? Would it strand me somewhere I couldn't afford to be stranded? I pulled up casino websites on my laptop. Not for fun, for research. Riverside had good blackjack rules. 6-deck shoes, dealer stands on soft 17, double after split allowed. The house edge with perfect basic strategy, 0.48%. I found YouTube videos of professional players. They made it look easy. Count the cards dealt, know the odds, bet accordingly. It wasn't about luck. It was about mathematics and discipline. I practiced with online simulators until my eyes burned. Won some hands, lost others, but stayed close to even. That was the goal. Play perfect strategy, minimize the house edge. Let natural variance work in my favor. $200 wasn't much, but it was something. And I only needed to triple it. That wasn't asking for a miracle. That was asking for one good session. I showered off the diner grease and put on clean clothes. Jeans and a button-down shirt. Nothing fancy, but respectable. I wanted to blend in, look like I belonged. The $20 bills felt crisp in my wallet. I counted them again. 10 bills, $200 exactly. My emergency fund. My solution. At 10:30 p.m., I drove the dying Honda toward Riverside Casino. The transmission slipped twice at red lights, but it got me there. The parking lot was maybe half full. Serious players and shift workers, people who knew what they were doing. I sat in my car for a few minutes, reviewing basic strategy in my head. Always hit 16 against a dealer's 7, 8, 9, 10, or ace. Always stand on 17 or higher. Split aces and eights. Double down on 11 against anything but an ace. Simple rules. Mathematical rules. Inside. The casino was exactly what I expected. Bright lights. Carpet that cost more than my car. The electronic sounds of slot machines mixing with the shuffle of cards and chips that I walked past the slots toward the table games. Section. Blackjack tables lined one wall, each under its own pool of light, like a surgical theater. I found a $25 minimum table with decent action. For other players, middle-aged dealer with kind eyes and steady hands. Her name tag read, Rosa. I pulled out 4 20s and laid them on the felt. Change 20, I said, trying to sound casual. Rosa counted out the bills and handed me 16 green chips. Good luck, she said with a smile that seemed genuine. First hand, I got 19. Dealer showed a 6, flipped over a 10 for 16, then drew a 7 for 23. Bust. I won my first bet. Rosa dealt with the smooth precision of someone who'd been doing this for years. Each card came off the deck with exactly the same motion, landed in exactly the same spot. Professional. Predictable. You play basic strategy? She asked as she shuffled. I tried to. Good. Most players here go with their gut. Gut doesn't know math. I liked her immediately. She was maybe 55, graying hair pulled back, wedding ring catching the light as she dealt. She reminded me of my mom in some ways. Practical, no nonsense, but warm underneath. The other players at the table were exactly what I expected. A guy in his 60s who hit every 16 regardless of the dealer's up card. A woman who doubled down on 12 because it felt right. A young guy who split tens because he'd seen it in a movie. I played by the book. Hit my 16ths against dealer face cards. Stood on my 17ths. Split my 8s even when everyone else groaned. You've studied this, Rosa said during a shuffle break. A little. More than a little. You're playing it right. After an hour, I was up $180. My original, $200 had become $380, exactly according to plan. The strategy was working. The math was sound, but $380 wouldn't fix my transmission. It wouldn't cover Mom's payment and rent. It was progress, not a solution. The casino had thinned out around midnight. Fewer casual players, more serious faces. The cocktail waitress came by less often. The energy shifted from entertainment to business that I started betting $50 a hand instead of $25. Same strategy, bigger stakes. If I was going to win enough to matter, I needed to win faster. Stepping up, Rosa asked as I pushed 2 green chips forward. Just a little. She dealt the cards. I got 20. She had 19. Win. Next hand, I got blackjack. Ace king of spades. She paid me 3-2 in 10 minutes. I'd won another $125. My stack was up to $505. You're running hot, said the old guy who'd been making bad plays all night, that I was running hot. But I was also playing perfect strategy, minimizing mistakes, letting the math work. This wasn't luck. This was what was supposed to happen when you played correctly. My phone buzzed. Text message from an unknown number. Probably spam. I ignored it. The cards kept coming. Some wins, some losses, but more wins than losses. By 12:30 a.m., I had $600 in chips stacked in front of me. 600 was good. 600 was real money. But my transmission cost $2,300, and Mom's payment was due in less than 20 hours. That I needed to keep playing. I was in control, playing perfect strategy, running above expected value. This was my chance to solve everything at once. Another shuffle, Rosa announced, gathering up the cards that she shuffled. She looked at me with an expression I couldn't quite read. Not disapproval exactly, more like recognition. How long you been playing? She asked. Tonight's my first time at a casino. She nodded slowly. First time's often the best time. I wasn't sure what she meant, but I was about to find out. The casino felt different after midnight. Quieter, more serious. The casual players had gone home, leaving behind people who knew what they were doing and people who thought they did. I was up $380, playing perfect basic strategy, feeling like I'd cracked some kind of code. Rosa dealt with the same steady rhythm, but her eyes lingered on my growing chip stack. You work around here? She asked during a lull. Line cook. Downtown. Good work. Honest work. Something in her tone made me look up. She was studying my face, like she was reading cards. You got family? She asked. My mom. She's in assisted living. Rosa nodded and dealt the next hand. I got 16 against her 7. Basic strategy said hit. I took the card, a 5 for 21. Good hit, she said. But she didn't sound happy about it. By 1 a.m., I had $720 in chips. I was beating the house edge, exactly like the strategy guide said I could. But $720 still wasn't enough. I needed at least $1,500 to make a real difference. That a new player sat down to my left. Younger guy, maybe 30, wearing a suit that cost more than I made in a month. He bought in for $2,000 like it was lunch money. What's the count? He asked nobody in particular. We don't count cards here, Rosa said politely but firmly. T laughed. Just asking about the flow, sweetheart. I didn't like him, but I watched how he played. Aggressive, confident, betting hundreds per hand. Within 30 minutes, he was up $800. Maybe I was being too conservative. Maybe $25 hands weren't going to get me where I needed to be. I pushed $75 forward for the next hand. Rosa raised an eyebrow, but said nothing. 18 against her 6. She flipped over a 10 for 16, then drew a 9 for 25. Bust. I won. The next hand, I bet $100. Won that one too. Pressing your luck? Rosa asked. Following the math, I said, but something had changed. The cards felt different in my hands. The wins felt more important, more necessary. I wasn't just playing basic strategy anymore. I was chasing something bigger. By 1:30 a.m., I had $1,150 in chips. Real money. Transmission money. My phone buzzed again. This time I checked it. Text from Mom. Can't sleep. Hope you're okay. Love you. I Type back, love you too. Everything's fine. Everything was fine. Better than fine. I was winning, but Rosa's expression had changed. She dealt more slowly now, giving me extra time to think about each bet. The way you might talk to someone standing on a ledge. You sure about this? She asked as I pushed $150 forward. I was sure. The math was still the math. Basic strategy was still basic strategy. And I was still winning. What I didn't realize was that the math was about to change. The suits guy to my left was on a streak. 5 hands in a row, betting $200 each time, winning every one. His chip stack looked like a small city skyline. It's all about reading the flow, he told me. Cards have rhythm. You just gotta feel it. I didn't believe in flow or rhythm. I believed in basic strategy. But I also believed in winning. And he was winning big while I was grinding out small gains. That I had $1,150 in chips. Not quite enough to fix everything, but close. Real close. Rosa shuffled the cards with the same mechanical precision she'd used all night, but her eyes kept finding mine. Like she wanted to tell me something, but couldn't. New shoe, she announced, sliding the cards into the dealing box. First hand from the fresh deck. I got 11. Rosa showed a 6. Perfect double-down situation. I pushed another $150 forward to match my bet. Double down, I said. She slid me 1 card face down. I didn't look at it yet. The suits guy got blackjack. The old man busted. The woman with the bad decisions won with 19. Rosa flipped her whole card. Another 6 for 12. Drew a 7 for 19. I turned over my double-down card. 4. My 11 became 15. I lost $300 in one hand. Tough break, Rosa said. Softly. My chip stack was down to $850. Still ahead for the night, but not by much. The transmission repair felt like it was slipping away with each shuffle. Cards are just cold right now, the suits guy said. Happens to everyone. He bet $500 on the next hand like it was nothing. I pushed $200 forward. Bigger than I'd been betting. But I needed to make up ground. Lost that one too. Then lost the next one. Within 20 minutes, I was down to $400 in chips. All my profits gone, plus half my original buy-in. My hands were shaking slightly as I stacked and res-tacked the remaining chips. Rosa dealt more slowly now. After each hand, she paused, giving me time to think. Time to walk away. But walking away with $400 meant I still couldn't fix my transmission. Still couldn't cover mom's payment. Still couldn't solve anything. I needed those wins back. The math said I should win them back, eventually. Basic strategy was still basic strategy. I pulled out my phone and checked my credit card limits. $380. Available on my Visa. $220 on my MasterCard. Just enough for a few more hands. Just enough to get back to even. The ATM glowed blue and white in the corner of my vision. You okay? Rosa asked. Just thinking. But I wasn't thinking clearly anymore. I was calculating. How much I needed to win. How quickly I could win it. How much time I had before everything fell apart. The suits guy won another hand and laughed like he'd told himself a joke. I stood up from the table. Taking a break? Rosa asked. Just a minute. I walked to the ATM, my legs feeling heavier than they should have. The ATM screen glowed cheerfully in the dim casino light. Cash advances available. $380 on my Visa, $220 on my MasterCard. Both at 29.99% interest, starting immediately. I'd never taken a cash advance before. Never needed to. But I'd never been this close to solving my problems, either. The math was simple. I was down $200 from my peak, but I'd been winning steadily before that cold streak. The cards would turn around. They had to. I inserted my Visa card and requested $300. The machine dispensed 15 $20 bills and a receipt showing the fees. $25 cash advance fee plus 29.99% APR. I tried not to think about what that meant monthly. Back at the table, Rosa looked at my fresh stack of bills with an expression I couldn't read. Change 300, I said. She counted out the 20s and slid me 12 green chips. Fresh start, something like that. The suits guy had left while I was at the ATM. His seat was empty, his massive chip stack gone. Maybe he'd won enough for one night. Maybe he knew something I didn't. I started with $50 hands again. Conservative. Smart. The strategy that had been working before the cold streak. Lost the first 3 hands in a row. Cards are still running cold, said the old guy who never made the right play anyway. I increased to $75 hands. If I was going to dig out of this hole, I needed to dig faster. 1-1, lost 2. 1-1, lost 1. The chips trickled away like water through my fingers. By 2:30 a.m., I was down to my last $100 in chips. The $300 cash advance was gone, plus another $100 from my original stake. I'd lost $600 total. My phone showed 3 missed calls from a number I didn't recognize. Probably bill collectors. The world outside the casino was starting to intrude. Rosa shuffled the cards again. She took longer than necessary, giving me time to think. "You sure you want to keep playing?" she asked quietly. I looked at my last $100 in chips. It wasn't enough to fix my transmission. Wasn't enough to help Mom. Wasn't enough to solve anything. But it also wasn't nothing that I could walk away right now. Cut my losses. Figure out some other solution to my problems. Or I could try to get back to even. One good streak could turn everything around. The math was still sound. I'd just hit a bad run of cards. "Deal me in," I said. Rosa dealt the cards. I got 20. She got 21. I pushed my last $100 forward. Lost that 1-2. I sat there staring at the empty felt in front of me. $600 gone in 2 hours. More money than I usually saw in a month. "I'm sorry," Rosa said, and she sounded like she meant it. The old guy gathered up his small stack of chips and left. The woman with bad decisions colored up and headed toward the cage. The table was almost empty now. Just me and Rosa and the wreckage of my plan. "ATM's right over there," I said, mostly to myself. "Sometimes it's better to walk away," Rosa said. But walking away meant facing Jerry at the transmission shop with empty pockets. Meant calling Mom's facility and admitting I couldn't make the payment. Meant everything I'd been trying to avoid. I still had $220 available on my MasterCard. Just enough for a few more hands. Just enough to try getting back to even. The ATM waited in the corner like a patient friend. The second cash advance felt different from the first. Heavier somehow. The MasterCard slot on the ATM was slightly sticky, like it was trying to hold on to my card. $2.20 in 20s. Plus another $25 fee. The receipt was longer this time, full of fine print about interest rates and payment terms that I didn't want to read. Walking back to Rosa's table, I passed other blackjack games. Higher stakes, serious players, the kind of money I couldn't imagine having. At one table, a woman in her 60s pushed forward a stack of black chips like she was buying groceries. "Welcome back," Rosa said as I sat down. She didn't sound welcoming. She sounded tired. Change, $2.20. The $20 bills felt different in her hands. She counted them twice, slowly, like she was hoping I'd change my mind. I started with $100 hands. No point being conservative anymore. I needed to win big to get back to even, and winning big meant betting big. First hand, blackjack. Ace-queen. The 3-2 payout gave me $150 profit in 30 seconds. Maybe my luck was turning. Second hand, 19 against her 18. Another win. Third hand, I got 16 against her 10. Basic strategy said hit. The card was a 5 for 21. "Nice comeback," Rosa said, but she didn't sound happy about it. Within 15 minutes, I was up to $580 in chips. Still down overall for the night, but climbing back. The math was working again. My phone buzzed. Text from Jerry at the transmission shop. "Haven't heard from you. Still planning to pick up the car Friday?" Friday was tomorrow. Today, actually, it was almost 3 a.m. I typed back. "We'll call you in the morning." But morning felt like a different country from where I was sitting. Under the bright casino lights, with chips stacked in front of me, time moved differently. Problems seemed solvable. I increased my bets to $150 per hand. Rosa raised an eyebrow but dealt the cards. Lost that one. And the next one. And the one after that. "Rough patch," she said as my stack shrank back down. Rough patch. That was one way to put it. Another way was that I'd just lost $450 in 5 minutes. The casino was nearly empty now. Just hardcore players and people like me who'd lost track of time and money. The cocktail waitresses moved slower. The energy felt desperate. A floor supervisor appeared at our table. Middle-aged woman with kind eyes and a practiced smile. "How's everyone doing tonight?" she asked. "Fine," I said, though I was down to $130 in chips and fighting panic. "Can I offer you anything? Coffee? Something from the restaurant?" I shook my head. All I wanted was to win back what I'd lost. To get back to that moment 2 hours ago when I had $720, and felt like I'd solved everything. Let me know if you need anything, the supervisor said. I'm Patricia. After she left, Rosa dealt another hand. I got 12 against her 6. Normally I'd stand, but normal strategy hadn't been working. I hit. Got a 9 for 21. Lucky. Rosa said, lucky. Right. I'd been so lucky that I'd turned $200 into $130 over 4 hours of play. My phone showed 3:15 a.m. I had to work the breakfast shift in less than 3 hours. But I couldn't leave down this much money. Couldn't face Jerry with empty pockets. Couldn't call Mom's facility and explain why the payment would be late again. I had $130 in chips and a credit card that might still have room on it. Just enough for one more try at getting even. Just enough to keep hope alive for a few more hands. Rosa shuffled the cards and looked at me with something that might have been pity. You sure about this? She asked. That I wasn't sure about anything anymore. But I was still here, and the cards were still coming, and somewhere in the next few hands might be the solution to everything. Deal, I said at 3:30 a.m. I moved to a $100 minimum table. Rosa's table was getting too expensive for my shrinking bankroll, and I needed faster action to get back to even. The new dealer was younger, maybe 30, with dead eyes and mechanical movements. His name tag read Kevin. He dealt cards like he was dealing from the bottom of his soul. Fresh blood, said a woman with bleached hair and dark circles under her eyes. She'd been at this table for hours, her ashtray overflowing with cigarette. But I bought in with my last $130. Kevin counted out the chips without expression. This felt different from Rosa's table. Hungrier, more desperate. The bleached hair woman was betting $300 per hand with money she clearly didn't have. Her hands shook as she pushed chips forward. She reminded me of someone, but I couldn't place who. Then I realized. She reminded me of how I probably looked. First hand at Kevin's table, I got 13 against his king. Hit and busted with a 10. Second hand, 15 against his ace. Hit and got a 9 for 24. Bust. My $130 became $30 in 2 minutes. Rough table, the woman said, lighting another cigarette. Been here since midnight. Down about $2,000. $2,000. I felt sick for her, and sicker for myself. My phone buzzed. Text from my manager Mike. Breakfast shift starts at 6. You opening or calling out? 6 a.m. was 2.5 hours away. I could still make it if I left now. Show up tired but employed, keep my job, figure out some other solution to my problems. I looked at my remaining $30 in chips. Not enough to matter. Not enough to fix anything. But it was something. I bet all $30 on the next hand. Got blackjack. Kevin paid me 3-2, bringing my stack back to $75. See, the woman said. Told you this table was turning around. Maybe she was right. Maybe my luck was finally changing. I bet $75 on the next hand and lost it all. Or maybe not, she said, stubbing out her cigarette. I sat there staring at the empty. Felt where my chips used to be. $720 gone. More than I'd lost in my entire life. All in one night. Kevin shuffled the cards with the same mechanical precision. The woman ordered another drink from a cocktail waitress who looked as tired as the rest of us. The casino felt different now. Smaller. Meaner. Like it was closing in around me. I still had credit available on my cards. Not much, but enough for one more buy-in. Enough to try getting back to even one more time. The ATM glowed in the corner, patient as a spider. The third ATM visit felt like admitting defeat while refusing to surrender. My Visa still had $80 available. My MasterCard was maxed $80 plus a $25 fee. The machine dispensed 4 20s and a receipt that I crumpled without reading. Back at Kevin's table, the bleached hair woman was gone. Her seat still smelled like cigarettes and desperation. A new player had taken her place. An old man with liver spots and shaky hands who bet $25 at a time like he was buying lottery tickets. Change 80, I said. Kevin counted out my chips without looking at me. 3 green chips and 1 red. My entire remaining credit limit. I bet $25 on the first hand. Got 19. Kevin had 20. Close, but close doesn't pay. Bet $25 on the second hand. Lost that too. Down to $30 again. The same place I'd been 20 minutes ago, except now I owed an additional $105 to my credit card company. My phone showed 6 missed calls. From numbers I didn't recognize. 2 from Jerry at the transmission shop, That I was supposed to pick up my car today. With what money? The old man next to me doubled down on 11 and drew a face card for 21. He smiled like he'd discovered fire. Been playing 40 years, he told me. Key is knowing when to press and when to fold. 40 years. I'd been playing 4 hours and already felt like a different person than the one who'd walked through those doors. That I bet my last $30. Got 12 against Kevin's 6. Basic strategy, said Stand. Let the dealer bust. But basic strategy had been screwing me all night. That I hit. Drew a 7 for 19. Kevin flipped over a 10 for 16, then drew a 5 for 20-1. My last chip disappeared into Kevin's rack. I sat there staring at nothing. No chips. No money. No solutions. Tough night. The old man said. Tough night. That was like calling a hurricane a strong breeze. Kevin shuffled the cards and waited for my next move. The casino sounds continued around me. Slot machines chirping, chips clicking, cocktail glasses clinking. Normal sounds for everyone else. The soundtrack to my financial suicide. My phone buzzed. Text from Mom. Hope you're sleeping well. Love you. I stared at the message until the words blurred. She thought I was sleeping. She thought her son was safely in bed, not sitting in a casino at 4 a.m. having burned through $800 he didn't have. I stood up from the table on unsteady legs. Call it a night? Kevin asked. Something like that. But the night wasn't over. My problems were still there, bigger now than when I'd arrived. The transmission still needed fixing. Mom's payment was still due. And now I owed money to credit card companies at interest rates that would make loan sharks blush. Walking through the casino toward the exit, I passed Rosa's table. She looked up and caught my eye, her expression mixing sympathy with something that might have been disappointment. I kept walking. The parking lot felt like stepping into another universe. Cool night air after hours of recycled casino atmosphere. Real sky instead of acoustic tile ceiling. The Honda sat where I'd left it, looking as tired as I felt. Other people were leaving too. Some looked happy, winners heading home with profits. Others looked like me, hollowed out, walking carefully like their bones were made of glass. I sat in my car without starting the engine. The dashboard clock read 4:17 a.m. Breakfast shift at the diner started in 1 hour and 43 minutes. I was supposed to be there, bright-eyed and ready to flip eggs for truckers and insomniacs. Instead, I was sitting in a dying Honda with empty pockets and a story I couldn't tell. My phone rang. Jerry from the transmission shop. Marcus? You coming in today? I need to know if you want that work done. His voice sounded like it was coming from the moon. Normal life. Normal problems. Normal people who fixed cars and paid bills and didn't gamble away their rent money at 4 a.m. Can I call you back? Sure, but I need to know by noon. Got other cars waiting. After he hung up, I did the math. $800 gone. $2,300 still needed for the transmission. $900 due to Mom's facility in. I checked the time. 19 hours. Total needed. $3, $700 at total available. Whatever change was in my cup holders, that I found 2 quarters, a dime, and a button that had fallen off my work shirt. The Honda started. On the third try, the transmission made sounds like grinding coffee beans, but it moved. I drove home through empty streets, past closed businesses and darkened houses full of people who weren't drowning to my apartment. I sat at the kitchen table surrounded by the same bills that had been there when I left. Except now they were joined by crumpled ATM receipts and the ghost of $800 that used to exist. I opened my laptop and searched for emergency loans bad credit. The results were predatory loan companies with names like Quick Cash and MoneyTree. Interest rates that started at 400% APR. My phone buzzed. Text from Mike at the diner. Where are you? Breakfast rush starting. I called him. Food poisoning. I lied. Can't make it in. Third time this month. Marcus. You sure everything's okay? Everything was the opposite of okay. Just need to sleep it off. Feel better. But we need to talk when you're back. The conversation I'd been dreading. The one where reliable employees became former employees. That I sat in my kitchen as dawn crept through the windows, casting long shadows across unpaid bills. Somewhere in the city, Rosa was dealing cards to the next desperate person. Jerry was wondering if I'd show up for my car. Mom was taking her morning medications and trusting that her son had everything under control. The plan had been so simple. Turn $200 into enough money to fix my problems. Instead, I'd turned $200 into $800 worth of new problems. and somewhere deep, in my chest, underneath the panic and shame, a small voice was already whispering about going back, that I didn't sleep. I sat at my kitchen table watching the sun rise through my window, calculating impossible math. $800 in cash advances. 29% interest starting immediately. Minimum payments I couldn't make on money I didn't have. That at 8 a.m., my phone rang. Sunrise Manor. Mr. Chen, this is billing. We still haven't received your mother's payment. It's now 48 hours overdue. Bank error, I heard myself say. Should be resolved today. We'll need payment by 5 p.m. or we'll have to notify your mother about the situation. Notify my mother. Tell her that her son, the one she worried about working too hard, had gambled away her care money at a casino. It'll be there by 5 p.m. Thank you. We'll watch for it. I hung up and stared at my laptop screen. Emergency loan sites glowed with promises of fast cash. All I needed was a bank account and a job. I still had a job. Barely. But Mike's tone suggested that was changing soon. $900 by 5 p.m. Impossible with legitimate means. But the casino was still there. Still dealing cards. Still offering the chance to turn a small amount into a large amount. I checked my credit cards online. The cash advances had gone through, but I still had available credit for purchases. $300 on the Visa, $200 on the MasterCard, $500. If I could turn that into $1,500, I could make mom's payment in half. Breathing room for the transmission, the math was still the same. Basic strategy still gave the house only a 0.5% edge. I just hit a bad streak last night. Variance. It happens to everyone. I showered and put on clean clothes. Different shirt. Different attitude. The old Marcus had made mistakes. The new Marcus would be smarter. At 11 a.m., I drove the grinding Honda back to Riverside Casino. Fewer cars in the parking lot during the day shift. Different crowd. More retirees, fewer desperate night owls. Inside, I found Rosa at the same table. She looked up when I approached, her expression unreadable. Didn't expect to see you back so soon, she said. Just a quick session. I pulled out my credit cards. Can I buy chips with these? Visa and MasterCard, yes. But there's a fee. How much? 3% on each transaction. 3% of 500 was $15. Small price to pay for a chance to solve my problems. I bought $500 in chips. Rosa counted them out slowly, like she was giving me time to change my mind. You sure about this? She asked that I was sure. I had to be sure. Mom's payment was due in 6 hours. Deal the cards. But Rosa's expression suggested she'd seen this movie before, and she knew how it ended. The day shift casino felt different. Quieter, more serious. Fewer drinks, more calculation. Rosa dealt with the same steady rhythm, but her eyes kept finding mine between hands. I started with $50 bets. Conservative. Smart. The strategy that would have worked if I'd stuck to it last night. First hand, 20 against her 19. Win, second hand. Blackjack. Natural 21. Running better today, Rosa said, but she didn't sound happy about it. Within 30 minutes, I was up $200. My stack had grown to $700. Real progress toward the $900 I needed for mom's payment. But $700 still wasn't $900. And I still needed transmission. Money on top of that. A new player sat down. Business suit, expensive watch, the confidence of someone who belonged here. He bought in for $2,000 like it was pocket change. How's the table running? He asked. Good for him, Rosa said, nodding toward me. The businessman started betting $200 per hand. Won 3 in a row. His stack grew while I ground out small profits with my $50 bets. You're playing scared money, he told me during a shuffle break. Scared money never wins. Scared money. Maybe he was right. Maybe I was being too conservative, too careful. Maybe that's why I'd lost last night. Not enough aggression when opportunity presented itself. I increased my bet to $100. Lost that hand. Increased to $150. Lost that one too. Cards are turning, the businessman said, coloring up his chips. Thanks for the action. He left with his profits. Smart man. Knew when to walk away. I was down to $400 in chips. Still ahead of my buy-in, but shrinking fast. My phone showed 2:30 p.m. 2.5 hours until mom's payment deadline. Rosa shuffled the cards slower than usual. You doing okay? Fine. You don't look fine. She was right. My hands were shaking slightly. My shirt was damp with sweat despite the casino's aggressive air conditioning. Just need to get back to even. Even's a moving target, she said. Might want to think about what even really means. Even meant having enough money to take care of my mother. Even meant not having to explain to her why her payment was late. Even meant keeping my promise to always take care of her. I bet $200 on the next hand. Got 16 against her 10. Hit and busted, down to $200 in chips. Bet it all on the next hand. Lost. I sat there staring at the empty felt. $500 gone in 2 hours. 1,500 total losses over 2 sessions. I'm sorry, Rosa said. And she meant it. Sorry didn't pay mom's bills. Sorry didn't fix transmissions. Sorry was just a word people said when they watched. You destroy yourself. I still had one option. One credit card with a small limit. One more chance. ATM's over there, I said, pointing. Maybe it's time to go home, Rosa suggested. Home to what? Unpaid bills. Angry phone calls. The conversation, where I explained to my mother why I'd failed her. I stood up from the table. Be right back. But Rosa's expression suggested she knew I wouldn't be. The ATM dispensed my last available credit like it was performing surgery. $180 from my final card, plus another $25 fee. The receipt was shorter this time. There wasn't much left to say. Walking back to Rosa's table felt like walking to an execution. She watched me approach with the expression of someone witnessing a car accident in slow motion. Last chance, I said, placing the bills on the felt. Last chance for what? Good question. Last chance to save mom's payment? Last chance to fix my transmission? Last chance to prove I wasn't a complete failure? Or just last chance to lose money I didn't have on cards I couldn't control? Change 180. Rosa counted out the 20s, like they were rare artifacts. 7 green chips. 7 chances to turn disaster into salvation. The table was nearly empty. Just me and an old woman who'd been nursing the same Diet Coke for an hour, betting $10 at a time, like she was feeding parking meters. An MY phone showed 3:45 p.m. 1 hour and 15 minutes until mom's payment deadline. I bet $60. Lost. Bet $60 again. Lost again. Down to $60 in chips. One bet left. You sure about this? Rosa asked that I wasn't sure about anything. But I was here, and the chips were in front of me, and somewhere in the next hand might be the miracle I needed. Deal. She dealt the cards. I got 11. She showed a 6. Perfect double-down situation. 11 against 6 was basic strategy gold. But doubling down required pushing forward another $60, money I didn't have. Just hitting, I said. She slid me a card. 7. 18 total. Rosa flipped her whole card. Another 6 for 12. Then drew a 9 for 20-1. My last chip disappeared into her rack. That I sat there in the silence that follows total financial destruction. No chips. No available credit. No solutions. The old woman won her $10 bet and smiled. Sometimes you get lucky, she said. Lucky. Right. My phone rang. Sunrise Manor again. Mr. Chun? Just calling to confirm payment arrangements. Our office closes at 5 p.m. Still working on it, I said. We really do need to resolve this today. After I hung up, Rosa leaned forward slightly. You got somewhere to go? Someone to call. Someone to call. I could call my mom and explain that her son was a gambling addict who'd blown her care money on blackjack. I could call Jerry and tell him the transmission wasn't getting fixed. I could call Mike and quit before he fired me. Or I could sit here in this chair and pretend the last 6 hours hadn't happened. I'm fine, I said. You're not fine. And that's okay. But sitting here isn't going to make it better. She was right. Nothing was going to make it better. The damage was done, complete, and irreversible. I stood up on shaky legs. Thanks for everything. Take care of yourself, she said, walking through the casino toward the exit. I passed the slot machines and poker tables, the bright lights and optimistic sounds. Other people were playing, winning, losing, living their normal gambling experiences. I'd just lived mine. And it was over. The parking lot sun felt harsh after hours under fluorescent lights. Real weather in the real world where bills came due and promises meant something. I sat in the Honda without starting it. The dashboard clock read 4:23 p.m. 37 minutes until mom's payment deadline. $1,500 in debt from 2 casino sessions. Transmission still broken. Job probably gone. Total damage assessment. I turned a $200 attempt to solve my problems into $2,000 worth of new problems. That my phone rang. Jerry from the transmission shop. Marcus, you coming in today? I got 3 other cars waiting for this. Bay, I can't afford the repair right now. Silence on the other end. Then, you want me to put the transmission back together so you can drive it home? Drive it home to what? I couldn't afford gas, much less a place to park a broken car. Just leave it. I'll figure something out. Can't store it here indefinitely. Got to charge you after a week. Another bill I couldn't pay. Another problem without a solution. After Jerry hung up, I started the Honda. It made sounds like a garbage disposal eating silverware, but it moved. I drove home through afternoon traffic, surrounded by normal people living normal lives. My apartment, the bills were still spread across my kitchen table. They looked different now, less like problems to be solved, more like evidence of my failure. I called Sunrise Manor. Mr. Chin, we close in 20 minutes. I need more time. There's been a family emergency. What kind of emergency? Good question. What do you call it when someone's son gambles away their care money? Medical emergency? Mental health crisis? Temporary insanity. My bank account was compromised. Fraud investigation. Should be resolved in a few days. We can give you until Monday. But after that, we'll have to discuss alternative arrangements with your mother. Alternative arrangements. Cheaper facilities. Lower levels of care. The conversation where mom learned that her son couldn't provide for her anymore. Monday will be fine. But Monday was 3 days away, and I was already out of ideas. After hanging up, I sat in my kitchen as evening shadows grew longer. The refrigerator hummed. The clock ticked. Normal sounds in a life that had become anything but normal. My phone buzzed. Text from Mike. Need to talk tomorrow. Come in at 10 a.m. The conversation where I got fired. Another domino falling in the chain reaction I'd started with $200 and a belief in mathematical certainty. I opened my laptop and stared at the screen. Job search websites. Bankruptcy lawyers. Gambling addiction resources. All roads I wasn't ready to walk down yet. But sitting in that kitchen, surrounded by the wreckage of my decisions, I finally understood what Rosa had been trying to tell me. Even wasn't about the money anymore. Even was about finding a way to live with what I'd done. Saturday morning came too soon and not soon enough. I'd spent the night staring at my ceiling, replaying every hand, every decision, every moment where I could have walked away at 10 a.m. I sat across from Mike in the diner's back office. The smell of bacon grease and coffee felt like another life. The life where I was a line cook with simple problems like overdue bills and broken transmissions. 3 no-shows this month, Mike said, looking at a clipboard. Plus, you've seemed distracted lately. Everything okay at home? Home, where I owed $1,500 to credit card companies and couldn't make my mother's care payment. Just some financial stress. Family stuff. I get it. Money's tight for everyone. But I need people I can count on. He was giving me a chance. One last opportunity to be the reliable employee I used to be. It won't happen again. Good. Because I like you, Marcus. You're a good worker when you're here. But showing up is part of the job. After the meeting, I worked a full shift. Eggs over easy, hash browns, coffee refills. Simple tasks that kept my hands busy and my mind focused on something other than disaster. During my break, I called Mom. How are you feeling, sweetheart? I'm fine, Mom. How are you? Oh, the usual aches and pains. But the nurses here are wonderful. I'm so grateful we found this place. Grateful. She was grateful for care I could no longer afford. The food's good too. Much better than that terrible place in Tucson. I remembered the Tucson facility. Understaffed, underfunded, patients sitting in hallways because there weren't enough rooms. The kind of place Mom would end up if I couldn't figure this out. I love you, Mom. I love you too, honey. You sound tired. Tired didn't begin to cover it. After work, I drove the dying Honda home through Saturday afternoon traffic. The transmission was definitely worse, slipping at every light, making sounds that suggested complete failure was imminent. My apartment. I found a business card tucked under my door. Rosa Martinez, Casino Host Services, Riverside Casino. On the back, she'd written a phone number and Gamblers Anonymous meets Tuesdays at 7 p.m. I turned the card over in my hands. Rosa, who'd dealt me $1,500 worth of losing hands, was offering me help. The irony would have been funny if it wasn't so painful, but maybe that's what help looked like sometimes. Not the person, You expected, not the way you expected, but when you needed it most. I sat at my kitchen table with Rose's card, my laptop open to a job search website. Data entry positions, night security, anything that paid money I could send to mom. The plan was simple now. Work every available hour, pay down the credit card debt, figure out how to cover mom's care without gambling for solutions that didn't exist. Outside my window, normal people were living normal Saturday evenings. Walking dogs, picking up takeout, visiting friends. The world I'd temporarily exiled myself from with one terrible night of mathematics. But exile wasn't permanent. Rose's card proved that. Help existed, even for people who'd made catastrophic decisions at 4 a.m. blackjack tables. I picked up my phone and dialed the number on the back of the card. Hello. Hi. Rosa gave me this number. Said there were meetings. Tuesday nights, 7 o'clock. First Baptist Church on 5th Street. You don't have to say anything, just listen. Okay. What's your first name? Marcus. See you Tuesday, Marcus. I hung up and stared at Rosa's business card. Casino host services. Her job was to keep players happy, keep them playing, keep them losing money to the house. But she'd also given me the number for people who understood what I'd been through. People who knew the difference between mathematical certainty and mathematical destruction. Tuesday was 3 days away. Mom's payment was due Monday. I still had problems without solutions, debts without income, and a transmission that sounded like it was dying. But for the first time since walking into that casino, I had something that felt like hope. Even if it was just a business card from a blackjack dealer who'd watched me lose everything and still cared enough to offer me a way back.